So if you have to look back and if you had to redo this entire thing, the setup of Air Deccan, what is that you would do so that, those mistakes, if at all you or the management did, would not be repeated?
We didn't have enough pilots, we didn't have enough parking spaces, all old airports. So all these things were challenges. Some were management challenges of HR, getting the HR right, putting the right people. And these were all mistakes made by me and some made by the team. And obviously it got corrected. But I had taken money into the company from private equity. The private equity puts money for short term. They want returns on that. They were putting pressure on me. Captain, we became the largest airline. So that was a success.
Correct.
We became the largest airline and we changed aviation so that common people could fly. I gave more than $500,000, or close to 1 million, 1 rupee, 500 rupee, 1,000 rupee tickets. That triggered a implosion and an explosion in society.
How did your military training shape your enterprising risk-taking ability?
3 in summer, I managed 25, 30 in winter. So forget fighting war, just living there is something of a challenge.
Jahan sir.
Hi.
Sir, tell us something. How did your military training shape your enterprising risk-taking ability?
Very difficult to say what makes one an entrepreneur, what makes one a scientist, and what makes one a soldier. Because as you see in your own family, if there are 5 children, if they go to the same school, right, born to same parents, father and mother are same, then each of them generally shape out differently.
Correct, sir.
Right. So from that point of view, my village school had a big impact on me, and much before that, my father and mother had a great influence on me. My mother was very devout, religious, and God-fearing, but she was not a fanatic. She was not bigoted.
Okay.
To the extent all of us have got some prejudices, but she was not bigoted. So even today, after 30, 40 years after her passing away, anybody who meets me says they think of my mother.
Okay.
My father was a non-believer, but he was religious in terms of spirituality, like Tagore. He never went to temple to a puja, or in the house he never did a puja, or he never went on board, but my mother did all that. He was more a Gandhiite and a Tagore, and so he was in that sense a bit irreverent, but deeply religious. If you say, like Einstein said, I'm religious because I dream about the mystery of the world. There's something mysterious about the world that way. So that had some very large influence on me. My father took me, he never put me to school till my 5th standard. So today we have creches and pre-nursery, and post-nursery, and first standard, second standard. He said the school is a prison. You play as long as you can, and I'll teach you when I come in the morning, evening from school, or in the mornings. And he taught me, of course, the basic arithmetic and Kannada and English. I was an English teacher and a history teacher after high school, the local village school. But he was also a farmer in that sense, that not a farmer like a typical farmer who would plow himself,
Yes, sir.
but he was quite hardworking. He was a good swimmer. He would take me to the river and make me swim. He took me to the fields, and when he took me to the fields, he pointed out to me the Dalits more than the rich Sahukar of the village. He would say, see how they work on the fields, they're in the mud, and they sing when they plant their crop, they sing when they plow. Nobody sings in a lathe machine in a factory, but they sing. For every season there is a different song, right? Harvest songs are different,
Yes.
the sowing songs are different. But he would say the real Dalit, the untouchable, he was more moved by them. He said many days after they come back after labor, then they come and take wages. Sometimes they do not have money because they already spent it. Then they buy ragi, then they sift it, then they mill it, then they make their khana. So what he was trying to say is, because my father was not rich, he was not poor as a laborer, he was not rich, because he had 8 children. He was a poor school teacher, as the saying goes. Teachers are paid badly. But he never complained. Even when he had 8 children, we had another 7, 8 children who were staying in our house, and all of them came one day or 2 days or 3 days in the week, different days. What is called as a Varadana in Kannada, where every day you go to a different house. So he was always pointing out to me the Dalits to show that you may not be rich, because there will always be somebody who's richer than you.
Absolutely.
But there are always people who are poorer than you, so you think of them. So that way, we were poor, but it was full of sunshine, because there was no envy. We never envied the rich merchant. But to inspire me to dream, he would read me stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata, Gandhi, Tagore, Bose, Vivekananda, and even some Western authors. So that was a big influence that shaped me in terms of relating to the world. And the school, the Kannada medium school, I went barefoot to a school like other kids. It was the only school for the next for about 20 villages. So in my 7th, and we had no uniform. We sat on the ground, and in my 7th standard, the headmaster came and said there is an exam for a military school. Anybody wants to apply for it. So I had by that time known what military school was, because when he had initially made that announcement, I asked my father, what is a military school? And even today you can see in the villages there is military hotel.
Yes, sir.
Even I think in Bangalore, if you go little rural areas,
It is.
even today you say Brahmanara hotel, which is vegetarian, Veera Shevara hotel, Lingayas are vegetarians. Military hotel means they serve non-vegetarian. Right? There are some Hindu military hotel, that means they don't serve beef. And there are some military hotels which serve pork, and some which were not selling beef in the hotels, but they were selling the beef as meat. He said that's the reason it's in military, because in the military they give you meat. If you eat, you become strong. So he said, you join. If you join the military, you will become strong. Right?
Okay.
And I was a thin, puny boy, and the other boys are much bigger, some would bully. So all that has stayed in my mind. And he himself was a vegetarian, pure vegetarian. But he said, you know, you do what excites you, what is good in the world, what is good for you. And what is good for you and good for the world should align. So when the headmaster said, I lifted my hand. In the class of about 35, 40 students, nobody else, I don't know why, but maybe more as a dream to venture out. I think that has been a defining moment for me. Because as Victor Hugo said, there is nothing like a dream to create your future. Puthi Narasimhachar, a Kannada poet, has said in another place, basically to addressing the village people, the young minds there. I'll tell it in Kannada and translate it. Gudiyache, gadiyache, gidadache, hogona banniro hosanaadige. Beyond the temple, beyond the woods, beyond the borders, let's go and discover new lands. André Gide tells in some other place, if you want to discover new lands, you have to leave the shore for a long time. Because if you want to discover, it's high risk. Because your ship or a boat may never reach the land which you want to discover. It is well known as a story that Columbus, the man who discovered America, instead of discovering India, he thought when he was standing in Spain overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, and he was a sailor, it was before the earth was known as to be round, before the Copernicus time, and he stood there and looked at the ocean, and he started imagining India must be on the other side, because we are on land. The earth is flat, there is ocean in between. Obviously the water and land can't be only on one side, there has to be land on the other side to balance the water on either side, right? Like a balance. Then only it will balance. It was totally wrong, but it was his instinct. But he had heard of India, it would somehow come through land here, there, and he wanted to discover a sea route. So he went and asked funds from the Italian kings. But the Italian kings didn't believe him. So he went to the Spanish kings, and the Spanish kings gave money for taking provisions, to take some men who had to give money to the families because they may not return. And he set sail on an undecked boat, with just sails and oars. And he ended up in the West Indies, and eventually America was discovered. So the Spanish kings were the first, if you want to use the modern terminology, the first venture capitalists. Somebody had the idea, they gave the equity, and he came back. But that particular single adventure and discovery changed the history of the world.
Correct.
How sometimes one act of one individual, one inventor can change the world, like the gunpowder did, or the printing press, or the jet engine. It's changed the world, or radio telephony. So the Spanish Armada became the largest navy in the world much before the British Navy. And then of course eventually the British Navy conquered the world. But before that, or alongside that, Spain conquered other half of the world. So the largest speaking language after English is Spanish. So in that spirit, someone said that if you want safety, then don't buy a boat. You build a small house on the beach. You're safe.
Yes, sir.
But you'll never discover anything.
Yes.
So in that sense, I went to write the exam, and I failed. I failed because it was in English medium, and I had studied in Kannada. There was a science paper, there was a arithmetic paper, and there was a English paper, and there was a general knowledge. So many of those words I couldn't understand, terms I couldn't understand at all. I came back and very disappointed, with tears in my eyes, told my headmaster, this is what happened. He said, don't be a fool, there's always another opportunity, and he left it there. And after 3 months he came back, or 2 months, and said, now an exam is being given in Kannada. And I learnt it later. Anybody wants to go? He said. I said yes. And this time I went, I passed. And the story was, this is again something which sort of informed me that never take no for an answer. This headmaster sitting in that village wrote a postcard to the Army, Defense Ministry, Army headquarters, because the exam for Sainik schools was conducted by the Defense Ministry. State government gave the land, state government was involved, but it was funded by the Defense Ministry, it was controlled by the Defense Ministry. And an Army officer or Air Force officer are made principals or headmasters. So he wrote to the Defense Ministry saying, how can you insult children of rural areas by giving an exam in a language which they do not know? Kannada is another language, English is another language. English is not intelligence. So you're insulting us. If you want people from Kannada language to join military, because hardly anybody joined the military in those days, even today, it was Punjabis, Dogras, UP people, Marathas, even Madras regiment, they were the ones who were joining. No Kannadigas, no Gujaratis. So somebody saw that in Delhi. They wrote a postcard, thank you headmaster, we are thankful to you. We made a big silly mistake, we'll give another exam in English, Kannada. That's how it happened. But what it showed me was, you listen to everybody, have an open mind, open all the doors and windows so that ideas and winds of knowledge and thoughts and ideas, let it come to us from all sides. In fact, there is a famous saying in the Rig Veda, Ano Badra Kratuvo Yantu Vartataha, which is there, written in the parliament. Let noble thoughts come to us from all sides. That was written in the Rig Veda 4,000 years ago, maybe 3,000 years ago. So in that sense, you listen to everybody, but believe in yourself. So I'll come to believing in yourself later. And that's how I joined Sainik School. After 3.5, 4 years, I was only 3 of us got selected. And after 3.5, 4 years, I took the UPSC exam. The 3 of us passed the UPSC exam, rest failed. And then I joined NDA. I took the army, the others took the Air Force. So I was the first to get commissioned in the army. From India I went to IMA. Air Force people went to the flying school in Hyderabad or Bidar. I think in those days Bidar. And the naval cadets went to Cochin. And I got commissioned in June 71 into the Indian Army Regiment of Artillery. So that also shaped my character in a way, my resilience, because NDA was tough and ragging. I once remember when I was already a bit late, and because before we went there was a parade in the morning always, a roll call, and the cadet who is the senior most captain there, cadet captain, he saw, he said, "You have got a button missing, you clod." And he put his hand on my collar and ripped it. So all the buttons came off. So I couldn't go to the academy as it is. He knew it. He did it intentionally. He says, "Go and change your shirt," which meant I had to really run like hell, because otherwise I'll get late for the next class. That will get again punishment. So I ran, changed everything. Then he said, at night at 10 o'clock, stand in the swimming trunks outside my cabin with a handkerchief and stitch the buttons so that I can't see the handkerchief. Because you will have time for about 2 hours after 6 o'clock in the evening, a little bit before dinner, after dinner. So 10 o'clock we stand in swimming pool, in swimming trunks. It was cold, so I went and stood there. Then he came out after some time, made me wait. I was shivering in cold, but he said, "Carry on, dismissed. Now you will know never to go without a button." So that lesson stayed with me. Even today, if there's no button in a shirt or a kurta, I don't wear it. Okay. Anyway, so all these things had in a way an effect on me. It showed I can take any amount of punishment but not break. Of course, some cadets broke. Maybe it is wrong to punish people so much that either injure themselves or commit suicide, because it happened once in a way. But I think that's a tradition that has come, and maybe it's slightly controlled now, and that really toughened me. It showed that when I joined the Indian Military Academy, that ragging was nothing like the NDA ragging. And when I joined the army, I knew that in my unit at that time, I got commissioned when I was 20, I knew that because we had soldiers who were young, who were from rural areas, many of them were tough. I may not have been the first or second, but I also knew that I was probably one of the toughest in the unit, like many of my other coastmates. So, but as my course got commissioned on 13 June 71, we went to the Regiment of Artillery for the Young Officers Course. The others went to Devlali, the others went to Commando Course, some went to Armored Corps for tank training, some went to the intelligence, some went to signals, some went to engineering. Engineering went to Pune, Military College of Engineering. Some had longer duration. But the war was in the air already in June 71, but in October, exactly after 3.5 months, they said the course is cut short, and you're dispatched to your unit to join your regiment and unit, whether it is in the Eastern Front or Western Front, for the war. And as you know, and also for the benefit of young people who are listening, in those days we had no Bangladesh. We were dispatched to the Bangladesh war and the Indo-Pak war, but at that time it was just a war with Pakistan, because we had West Pakistan, which is west of Punjab, west of Rajasthan, or north of Rajasthan, and west of Rajasthan and Gujarat, and west of Kashmir. So there were Punjabis there, were Punjabi Muslims. Most of the Hindus had migrated here. Similarly, we had Baluch, we had the Pakhtuns, right up to the border with Afghanistan and Iran and other countries. So East Pakistan was divided by 2,000 kilometers or 2,500 kilometers, the landmass of Rajasthan, UP and other states. And there was East Bengal. East Pakistan was the East Bengal, then we had West Bengal. And in between there is a chicken neck of 30 kilometers between Siliguri and the border with Sikkim and Bhutan. Sikkim was then an independent principality, but under Indian control, and Bhutan was an independent kingdom, which it still is. Now Sikkim is part of India. Then you have Tibet on the top, China. So the 30 kilometers is very critical because that cuts off the entire northeast of 7 states, because East Pakistan on the left. It was critical then, it's critical today. And East Pakistan is Bengali, ethnically, culturally, in all respects, all their what do you call, heritage, everything is Bengali. And they are shorter, most of them darker, unlike the tall Punjabis and others on the west. And so therefore there was already a dissonance or discord, complaint by the East Pakistani Bengalis, which at that time was led by Mujibur Rahman. It is relevant today because Sheikh Hasina, who is now in exile in India, her father was then the MP and the leader there. He was protesting and asking for more autonomy and more distribution of wealth, which is also now we can witness it in India. When there are resources are not equitably, justly allocated, then you have issues of nationalism, though nobody can accept violence, they have to sit and negotiate, but it should not give way to a nationalism in the first place, because it is easy for Maoists and Naxalites who are inspired by Maoism and communism. They recruited these tribal people because they were exploited, their forests are taken, mines are coming, the mineral rights have taken precedence over tribals and forests, they are displaced. So they are easy to recruit them to the violent movement. And similarly, you are already hearing the South complaining openly, this is all public, saying that South is producing more economically part of the GDP with a lesser population, and the higher population of North, and especially what they call the Bimaru states. But they're all great states, but very derogatively it is called that way, it should not be. These states of the North, the cow belt or the Hindi belt, they are growing in population, but their share of the economy, production of GDP, per capita income is lower than the South. So we are, in the end, taking care of them. So give us more share. That's the cry that you're hearing from South. And that is what happened in East Bengal. So Mujibur Rahman maintained a protest of fasting. There were riots. So the Pakistani army imposed martial law. It was under military rule, but imposed martial law. So when martial law was imposed, they were ruthless. There was plunder, there's the rape of women, and huge migration. About 10 million Bengali Muslims, along with Hindus, Hindu population was quite less, they migrated into India, into borders with West Bengal, all the other northeastern states. And they were put in refugee camps. Today we are getting disturbed with a small number of migrants. 10 million came, and Indira Gandhi opened her arms and opened her heart and gave them shelter because they were getting massacred there. But what Pakistan did was, they captured as many women as possible, because the whole entire half the military of Pakistan was inside East Bengal. So they had captured a lot of women, as much as you could, firstly to exploit them in all ways. They would wash for them, cook for them, they became their sex slaves, but also for ensuring that the women stay back, the men stay back. Because if you hold the women, the men will stay back. But the atrocities were so high, oppression was so high, many came here. That's when Indira Gandhi decided, along with Manek Shah, the chief, that we should invade East Pakistan, because Pakistan is making our state, Indian state, unviable because of the pressure it will put on the Indian state. And that's how preparations were there, and that's how I was posted in Sikkim to my unit, which was in a place called Gangtok, headquarters of capital then. But my unit was in a place called Changu, a lake which was 10,000 feet, and I reached by train from Devlali to Bagdogra, and then I took a Siliguri, and I took my unit had sent my army trucks and jeeps and vehicles. There were a lot of other soldiers coming in from all over India. When I was in the station, everywhere from all over India, trains were moving to the front, Western Front and Eastern Front. People who were on leave were called back. People who were in training, whether soldiers or JCOs, non-commissioned officers, junior commissioned officers, everyone were pressed into service. The training was cut short. So in every station, it was milling with soldiers, and everybody were talking because they had already heard what was happening. And that's how I reached Bagdogra. There was tension in the air. Nobody knew what the future held. But there was excitement. There was no cowardice in that sense, but there was excitement. Some of them were 20, some of them were 18. And there were also veterans who were coming who had seen war before. So I reached my unit at something like about 8 o'clock in the night, after one day night halt in Siliguri, and or 2 nights. And as I reached, I was told, don't unpack. They're all packed and ready. Our guns are ready. All our ammunition, equipment, everything is ready. We are going to go to the borders. So that night I never slept, because wherever I was in that bunker or tent, all around people were walking, shuffling, so I was listening to everybody, and nobody had any time for me. So we moved on next morning at 4:30 with our 18 guns, trucks, and 1,000 people in various trucks. And a lot of trucks were also requisitioned. The army had the power, the government had the power to send a letter and requisition any truck, any resource, railways, everything was requisitioned to transport ammunition, food, boots, ordnance, whatever you required. And that's how we moved down and reached the border at Siliguri, where the corps headquarters was. There's a brigade headquarters there, along with my brigade. So I was made the intelligence IO, called the intelligence officer, or a ADC, to the commanding officer. And I was told, don't think you have become an officer now. You are still young. Whatever you learnt in the academy is only letter A. You have to go up to letter Z. You know nothing, so learn. And they said, you are not to be heard, you can only be seen. So, and I had a commanding officer who was very smart, outstanding, Colonel KLK Singh, later General KLK Singh. So that was the biggest lesson for me, because I followed him like a shadow, kept notes, and had to give it to him every day. So that I learned how to make notes, and he would correct me. He was very sharp, because he took me to all the briefing at the brigade headquarters, where the plans for the attack would happen. Though the war started on December 1st and ended exactly in 15 days, on December 16th, 15 days. But because skirmishes had already started, there were already Indian army officers who were training the Mukti Bahini forces, who had left the army and Pakistani army, who were Bangladeshis, police people, paramilitary. So they had left and they had worn civilian clothes and they were getting trained by the Indian army officers. So some from my unit were already there. So in the brigade headquarters, then I would, along with the brigade commander, we'd go to the div headquarters and send to the corps headquarters, where everything was under the bunkers with camouflage because they're in the border, because the air aircrafts could come and bomb us. So I was very fortunate as a young 20-year-old officer. I saw what was happening at ground level in the unit, when the CO took meetings. Then I saw what was happening when the CO went to the brigade headquarters, and what happened at the division and major general headquarters, and what happened at the corps headquarters. And they were discussing on sand models, how the attack would take place. All that I had learnt in the academy extensively. But this is a big revelation to me, because discussions were taking place where each brigade commander, general, they were giving their inputs, saying that I don't think this is the right way, that is the right way, whatever. And then one day, General Manekshaw, the most charismatic, very attractive personality, charismatic, with a big moustache, and he came visiting all the corps headquarters, so we were all made to stand in a line. I was also there next to my CEO, he shook hands, and absolutely it was extraordinary experience, because he was a great orator.
So.
And he gave a short speech, and we went into Bangladesh. In the first attack, I'll finish this portion. The first attack, which was very fierce, like always, it was over after 2 days of fighting. Some of my own army unit people died. Then I saw on the radio, there was one Major General Najapa, there was one Manjunath, there were the Grenadiers, there were the Rajput regiment. They were talking in Kannada, so they're not picked up. And so morning when we went, as the attack were captured, I went with my CO. We found in one of the Panchayat headquarters, which had become that regiment headquarters of the infantry brigade or infantry unit. A lot of dead bodies were there, some of our own. And in one room, there was a little bit of noise. They all took the guns and opened it. There were women there who were emaciated, who had kept us as sex slaves, as I told you. So very heart-rending. Then, of course, I'll cut the story short. Within 15 days, Pakistan, it's a demoralized army. So when a demoralized army is there, it is demoralized because they were immoral. They were leading a dissipated life, raping women, pillaging, drinking, robbing. So such an army will not be able to fight a war, though they may be having a good time or a must time, because they have become degenerate. And then the local public was with us, so they would give us all the intelligence input for the patrols, as where they saw any movement of troops, where the entrenchments were there. All these things helped the Indian army, and within 15 days they were isolated in different parts, and the war came to an end because Manekshaw came on the radio. Last 3 days, every 1 hour was broadcast in Hindi, because they all understand Hindi, saying, I'm General Manekshaw, we will take care of you, you are surrounded, you have no choice, you are surrounded, surrender. surrender. You still have a chance. We will treat you with dignity. Otherwise, our army will invade and you will be slaughtered. So he put that fear, and they realized there's no way, and they surrendered. So it is also a war of great planning. As Napoleon said, the army marches on its stomach, which meant that it's not only cannons, it is lightning speed in terms of your strategy and maneuvers, and it's also is lightning speed which wins the war, and not cannons. And along with that, people who are, when you say marching on stomach, it means that there has to be a supply chain for food, but not only food is a metaphor. There has to be a supply chain for your boots, for your ammunition, for communication, engineering, all the elements and components of war that are required have to move together. And the electrical mechanical engineer for repairing the trucks and the guns, the tanks, the rifles, everything, the medical corps for evacuation, everything has to be there, and the Air Force and the Navy. And war ended. 15 days, 100,000, 90 or 8,000 people surrendered, and in a ceremony in different parts, and the war came to an end. And they were in prisoner of war camps for 1 year, and India took care of them with dignity under the Geneva Convention and sent them back. Then I came back to Sikkim, where my unit moved back to Sikkim. I was in the Chinese border at 15,000 feet for 18 months, where the maximum temperature was -3 in summer and -25, 30 in winter. So forget fighting war, just living there is something of a challenge, because you get high altitude sickness, you lose your appetite, and that's why the Indian soldiers today, even though China has a bigger army now, and is also a warning for us to build a better defense during peacetime, because we can't just have empty chest beating. It's much better than 62 and 65 and 71, but still we have to ensure that they are kept trained all the time, and the Indian army is today more war experienced at the high altitude, with the Chinese army is not. So therefore, whatever the Chinese skirmishes that we had, I think it would have been a disaster for China. But having said that, India must focus now, cut our bureaucracy, corruption, and coordination and speedy decisions to build an army. Anyway, I was there in then I was in China's border at Nathula, next to that Chola, eyeball to eyeball with China. Then I was in Assam border. Then I was in, I went to Kashmir, I was in Rajasthan, I was in Trivandrum for the Southern Brigade. And I took a motorcycle. I'd done a lot of trekking in the Himalayas. They were all great experience. In the high altitude area, when absolutely nothing you could do after 3-4 hours because the weather would pack up.
So
read a lot.
Yes. So after leaving the army, you were into farming for a long time.
Yeah, I'll come to that.
And after which you opened Air Deccan.
Yeah.
The intent behind that is that to ensure everyone could fly, basically to democratize flying.
Yeah.
But it became the way it functioned, for some reason you had to sell it off. So if you have to look back and if you had to redo this entire thing, the setup of Air Deccan, what is that you would do so that, you know, those mistakes, if at all you or the management did, would not be repeated?
Yeah, I'll put it in 2 parts.
So
I left the army. And came back to my village. I did an entire trip of India on motorcycles, north and south, and then I went abroad, took furlough, trekked all over USA, 10,000 kilometers east to west coast, so I had seen enough. And I said, now I must do something different. Army was a great life. Defense forces, even today, is the most secular. Of course, there are sometimes attempts made to communalize it, but it will not work. And I hope people will not attempt that. It's a very secular force. Still, there is corruption like all over the world, in India, in the Army, in the Air Force and Navy, but it's minimal. You don't have to bribe anybody to get your normal work done. And then I came to do some farming because my father was getting old, and so we had lost some lands under a dam. They gave new, barren lands in another place. So I took those lands, which is totally barren, unreclaimed, on the bank of a stream, 5 kilometers from anywhere. I took a tent. I had a army rifle. I had a Dalit boy. Took a Doberman dog and went and pitched a tent. And for the next 8-9 years, from 79 till 89, 10 years, I stayed there to build a farm from the scratch. There was nothing there, so I did. My idea was to raise a coconut farm, have a dairy, have silkworm rearing, raise crops, have poultry, all those things I did, and it was not easy, it ups and downs. And I think, and I left the army with 6,300 rupees as a gratuity, because my last drawn salary then as a captain was 1,300 rupees, all inclusive. Maybe it was about 200 rupees more than in 1978, more than what an IAS officer or IPS officer of my service would get. And but there was a princely sum, but I had not put in pensionable service, so I only got gratuity of 6,300. So I had this irrepressible energy and a kind of optimism that with this army training, with this experience and a war experience, I felt I should be able to make a life for myself. I knew what I didn't want. But I did not know what I really wanted. So I thought best is to do farming. It will give me time to think over. And along the way, I can read, I can dream, have a good life. And, as Carl Jung said, I'm not what happened to me, I'm what I choose to become. I'm telling this for many people who are leaving the army and air force and defense. Some became into depression, some saying I don't have any connections. Many are doing well, like for example, you're doing well. So I want to tell them that never lose yourself in depression or despair.
Yes.
Lose yourself in action. Don't dream, but do not envy. Like in NDA, there should be one poem in all the tables, in your writing table in your room. It's called If. In that two sentences, it said, if you can dream but not make dreams your master. You dream, but don't make it a master. That means your dream alone can't rule you. Your dreams must be combined with hard iron labor, must be combined with adventure. And along with that, persistence. Persistence is more important than talent. We all come with different talents. But ultimately, persistence wins. Even for a genius, gifted, talented guy, persistence is more important than talent. So with that kind of mental attitude if you have, you can venture in anything. But for that you need to trust yourself. When I said I want to do farming, I have to have the trust in myself.
Correct, sir.
Again, to quote one more last line, in the same poem of Rudyard Kipling of If, which was in an NDA, which every NDA cadet will know, if you can trust yourself but not make, if you can trust yourself but make allowances, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too. Because trust without making allowances for others' opinions can become hubris or arrogance.
Correct.
So, self-trust is the first secret of success in whatever you want to do. Whether it is music like Bhimsen Joshi or me starting an airline. So I came back, I took to farming, I was there for 10 years. Then I got married during that period because I was alone in the farm, in a tent. And one small wisdom my father gave, he asked me, you must marry, you're 27, 28, you're single. He said, no, I only have 6,000 rupees, I'm not in the army anymore. The girl who wants to marry me may be thinking I'm a captain because I was using captain in my name. And I don't have a bungalow, I've got to grow things, I have to become financially viable. He said, you fool. That's how he would speak to me sometimes. That means the poor people cannot marry. 70% of India are poor, or they are all bachelors, he asked me. That's when it hit me, so I got married. And my wife came to see me in a bullock cart. She was educated, but from a middle class family. And bullock cart because I had only a motorcycle. And my neighbor gave a bullock cart. And we married and we had 2 daughters. Then after 10 years, after doing a few other things, because farming never gave enough money, I had a motorcycle dealership. I established a motorcycle dealership. I established a Udupi hotel. I established an agriculture consultancy company. Like that I did various things to add income to my farm. So that gave me a great lesson in enterprise. Why I'm telling that before coming to the airline, because many people know that because of so much in publicity. But this, failure is always a stepping stone to success. It's very cliche. Each small venture of mine taught me about people, how to manage them, taught me about finance, taught me about the way to grow a business, to get partners. Because my chartered accountant at that time in Hassan, rural, Balakrishna Achar, I had to thank him. He said, be careful when you choose a partner in business. Under the Indian Partnership Act, or even today, it is easier to divorce your wife than your partner, which is very true. So all that was a great learning for me. So I came to Bangalore, and when I was in Bangalore, I used to re-establish my connections with the army by going to the RSI, the army club, the canteens. So there I met an old friend of mine, Captain Samuel, and much later Captain Jayant Povaya and Captain Vishnu Raval. They were helicopter pilots. I was with them. They were my batchmates, buddies. Sam was my batchmate and buddy along with Jayant, but I was not flying. They were flying. I was in the same regiment which had army aviation. And he had also retired after 20 years. But he was still about 40 like me, 41, 42. And when I was playing squash with him, the club, he said that, look, he's not getting a job because there are no helicopters here. So he has to go once in a way whenever they call him for ONGC in Northeast. Then he said, we must do something in helicopters. That's what triggered my mind, because I was already an entrepreneur. He was a pilot who wanted to do something because he was not getting enough business. And he had 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter, and he was still 40. He was an outstanding guy. I loved him. We had a great relationship. And a colonel in the army, he was a gallantry award winner, having flown in Kashmir against terrorists. So all that had great qualities, but he was getting wasted. He would have joined as a security officer or administrative officer, right? Generally, mostly. So that's where I said, there's no helicopter in South India, because we had only about 10-12 helicopters. Malaysia had about 40 then. Forget America, forget Europe. Philippines had about 60, 70. Brazil had about 500. And we were also like Brazil, but much, much behind them at that time. I said, oh my God, I said, there's no competition. And I had gone to China with a delegation of farmers for silkworm rearing, because I had a lot of work in silkworm rearing. There I noticed that China had become totally capitalistic, brazenly, shamelessly capitalistic, but still they had a Communist Party, Politburo and all that, but there was no communism.
Which year was that, sir?
96. Communism was more in the form of a dictatorship. You don't criticize the government, you do anything you want. There were karaoke bars, nightclubs, even in Taluk headquarters. They were already 10, 15 years ahead of us. Beautiful highways, beautiful infrastructure. Then I said, India can't now go back, because everybody looks at his rival. For America it is Russia, for India, for England it was France, for India it is Pakistan, not so much. It was more a Hindu-Muslim thing. But for India it is China.
Correct, sir.
If China is racing ahead, India can't stay back. Though they were doing Swadeshi, RSS and others would come. So I said, no helicopters. There is China racing ahead. And I got Army, Air Force, Naval officers, pilots and engineers available.
Okay.
That was a eureka moment.
So what are the things, sir, you would like to redo now?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
Why this is important, I'll
Sir.
tell you that also in 5 minutes. Why this is, then you can edit some other. Why this is important is, this is how the aviation happened.
Sir.
It wouldn't have happened without that background.
Correct.
Right? So I formed a partnership with Sam. In the equity partnership, we put just 3, 4, 5 lakhs. That's all. Totally, I think we put 5 or 6 lakhs. So I started the helicopter company with 5 to 6 lakhs. Of mine, 5 to 6 lakhs of it. I had nothing to project balance sheets. There was no projected balance sheet. There was no bank statements. We had only dreams. Projected balance sheets, no balance sheets to prove. So we had only dreams. And when you give dreams, somebody puts money. And how do you give dreams? To share dreams with them by giving them shares. So I had 100% of the company along with Sam, 50-50. I just said, I'm going to start a helicopter company. Because the most important, we had pilots and engineers in this one. I had a partner who took the back seat, fortunately, so that there was no ego clash, and allowed me to do the business side, because he was zero in that and I was zero that side. That's how we started, but it took me 3 years to get the license. 3 years. So that's the reason, but we did not give up. Sam did not say, if we don't get the license, I'll go back to being a security officer, which he had become, an administrative officer. We said, we will not stop. We will not stop till the goal is reached, as Vivekananda said. So we kept going to Delhi. And one day I rushed into the secretary's office, the minister's office, and shouted at them, which is what is shown in the movie. I didn't hit them. And then he said, minister said, Captain, why have you come so late? Why didn't you come earlier? He knew. But he was, because when ministers don't give a license and not reject it, means they're expecting something. There is corruption. Then corruption today. And there will be corruption tomorrow. But what I want to tell all the ex-army officers who are coming out is that if you have the will not to bribe, and without complaining, I don't have godfathers, I don't have rich man, I don't have politician. If you have the will to hold on, to persist, then you will spend less money, it will take a little more time, but you will get what you want. If 10 doors close, the 11th will always open. That's the reason you need to be, in addition to having the other qualities of energy, all that, and you have to be optimistic that things will work out. These qualities of energy, optimism, persistence is more important than capital. It's true then, true today, tomorrow. Money will come to you if you have these things. So that's how I started Deccan. We started with one helicopter, but it took us 3 years to get a license and some equity. Different people put money and I gave shares. Started with one and we became 15 helicopters. And then one day, I said, when I was coming on the helicopter, I found that there's a new India of billion people, because there are dish antennas for television in those days in every village. I said, and people like Chandrababu Naidu and others were asking me, Captain, why aren't you starting a daily flight in the helicopter to Vijayawada, to Hubli? I said, no, that's not the way. It will not work. Even if all the 6 seats or 7 seats or 10 seats are occupied, it will be costlier than a business aircraft. It has to be a low-cost airline. And that's how I announced that I'm going to start a low-cost airline for India where every Indian can fly.
So what are the mistakes of which you...
A lot of mistakes, always. So we started the airline and we grew very fast. We grew very fast because the competition was trying to stop me. Because if you don't have scale, you will not survive. You are very small, they'll take away all your pilots. And if you have the right model, pilots want to leave from ATR to Airbus to, they want to go to the bigger 320 to 330, 330 to 340, 340 to 380, they want to go to Boeing. It's sexy to be a Boeing pilot. So I started with ATR, then I joined Airbus, and we grew. We put 48 aircrafts in 48 months. That created a lot of problem in management, because we didn't have enough management people in India. I got a lot of foreigners from abroad. Some of it, I think, the challenges I had then, those challenges will be different today. You will not have the same problems today that I had then. I had luck on my side. I had good fortune on my side. I had the timing was right, and I got funding. I raised 1,000 crores. But there were other challenges. The oil went up from $11 to $140. So from 35%, 55% of the ticket was this one. We didn't have enough pilots, we didn't have enough parking spaces, all old airports. So all these things were challenges. Some were management challenges of HR, getting the HR right, putting the right people. And these were all mistakes made by me and some made by the team. And obviously it got corrected. But I had taken money from into the company from private equity. The private equity puts money for short term. They want returns on that. They were putting pressure on me. Captain, you have to... We became the largest airline. So that's a success.
Correct.
We became the largest airline and we changed aviation so that common people could fly. I gave more than 500,000, or close to 1 million, 1 rupee, 500 rupee, 1,000 rupee tickets. That triggered a implosion and an explosion in society. There were many people who had never flown in their lives, including security guards who started, at least flew once in their life. Right? Today you can see them. Today, even my own driver goes by flight. Once in a year or twice a year, once in 2 years. So all those things created a lot of challenges, a lot of problems. We made a lot of mistakes, especially in man management, because there was a lot of conflicts between people, challenging, getting your people aligned. See, if you tell an engineer fix an engine, he will fix it. If you tell a pilot to fly properly, he will fly. But again, getting all the pilots together and getting the pilots aligned with the engineers and getting all the engineers together and getting all the different silos working together, that's a challenge. See what's happening in Air India now. They've got 4 airlines, they're merging it, they're not getting all right. So a whole lot of mistakes were made. Obviously those mistakes had to be corrected. But today there will be new challenges.
Correct.
But what you learn is that innovation, you can't do exactly what you did yesterday. You have to innovate. Like we introduced e-tickets for the first time. So you have to have innovation. You have to get all the people to have a common heartbeat. All those things, persistence, hard work, courage, these will not change. What will change is the mistakes that you made, that each of us know. I made mistakes, I was harsh on some people, I lost them. Maybe I did not see, I lost some good friends, I lost some good managers. Maybe I should have retained them. I didn't retain them because I was not mature enough, I did not listen enough, right? I was not kind enough. I could have been a better husband, better father, better friend.
Right, sir. Yes, sir. So it was wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your inspiring words. I'm sure whoever is watching us would get inspired by your story. Thank you, sir.
We are ending on a good note because the helicopter is landing.
Yes, sir.